But I've been involved in organisations. I would classify myself as one of life's belongers. If there's a club to be had, yeah, I'll be there. If there's a rugby match to be played, I'll go and play it rather than studying, quite honestly. And so I was involved in scouting, youth club. If there was a club going at school at lunchtime, I'd be involved in that, as long as it didn't clash with the rugby. I did some theatre stuff, a bit of acting at school, again, because it got me out of some lessons, and you see a theme occurring. And I got involved with Round Table. I went up through various ranks. I actually sat on their national board as their membership officer. And back then I had started on a personal journey nearly 20 years ago now of personal development. So being a better speaker, being a better communicator, doing training, personal development stuff. And that was all following the death of my father, and us reviewing what happens in the business, and the fact that we'd been training people up and then they were leaving. And so we got to a point of saying, you know, if we took the training ourselves and we then imparted it on other people, we could afford a more expensive training, because you could afford to spend, say, £3,000 on somebody's training rather than £300, because you'll get more than 10 times of that, because you can share it between more than 10 people, etc. But in order to do that, I need better skills to do it. And so I started on that personal development journey, and then started to take that into the world of clubs and how clubs are run. And I found, with a bit of research, that there were what I believe to be 7 classic mistakes that clubs make, and there were four main principles that, what I refer to them as, is the foundation stones, the 4 cornerstones, effectively, of building something great. And if you've got those 4 things well, running well and understood well, then what you build on those can be really strong.
What are these 4 foundations then?
So they are greatness, identifying opportunities, carpe diem, or seizing the opportunities, and nurture. And I also talk about building a jigsaw, which is why the logo is jigsaw, jigsaw, jigsaw. And that came from just, you know, understanding how do we build a jigsaw. And the first thing that we do is to find the four corners. And the reason we find the 4 corners is because there's only 4 of them in the box. Unless you've got a circular jigsaw, if you've got a rectangular jigsaw, you've got 4 pieces, they've got 2 flat edges. You know, you put your 4 pieces, they don't even have to be in the same place, the right places, but you've started. You can't see the big picture, but you've started. And then the next thing we do is we build the rest of the parameter, because we can get the next level of uniqueness, for want of a better expression. So we get all of the pieces with 1 straight edge. Once we've got that structure, we know that everything else fits in there somewhere. Sometimes we work in great detail in one particular area. Sometimes sometimes you could spend a lot of time finding all of the blue pieces and working on a particular area and getting some, and you can get great clarity in that area. But when you stand back, you still can't see the big picture. You can see great clarity in that one area, but not the whole thing. And then another time you might go and work in another area. You might go and work on the green pieces or the red pieces, and you don't really know where they all quite fit in, but you know they all fit in there somewhere. When you get to the end, if there's, say it's £1,000, that's a 1,000-piece jigsaw, and there are a dozen pieces missing completely randomly, you still can see the big picture. You've still got bits you can work on. There's still bits you need to go and find, but you've got enough that you can see the big enough picture, and you know you're moving in the right direction. So I used to run a 24-hour intensive workshop, during which we would break a piece of wood with our bare hands, and we would link the various elements of the principles coming together in a plan to what the steps that you need to make in order to break the board with your bare hands, karate type style.
Right.
You can actually take somebody through the process in about 20 minutes with no meaning, but we took a day to do it. and it really solidifies. It's what I call a physical metaphor. So, for instance, how you stand is the first part of breaking a piece of wood. So how you stand as an organization is what I call the Goldilocks factor. Have a good look in the mirror, see things exactly how they are, not better than they are, not worse than they are. And somebody once said to me, great managers do not see things better than they are or worse than they are. They see them exactly how they are.
No.
So as an organization, sometimes we've got to look at ourselves and say, you know, let's be completely honest, because it's part of the process. It's the first part of the process. And that's where the 7 mistakes can come in. And we kind of sometimes sit and go, yeah, okay, maybe we do make those mistakes. If organizations do nothing other than stop making those mistakes, they don't have to replace it with anything. Better if they do. But if they just stop making those mistakes, then it's going to be a better organization.
Going back to the beginning, you know, you need to believe in what you're providing is good for you to be able to tell anybody that it is any good. It's very interesting, these 4 corners as to how we look at this in terms from a sort of holistic point of view.
And you have to look at all of them. So when we build the metaphor of breaking a piece of wood, there's 6 steps. So there's we've just kind of touched on, you know, how we stand, being centered. Then it's aim. You know, what do you aim at when you're going to break a piece of wood? You know, what is your aim? Is your aim, you know, most people say the aim is to hit the wood. No, the aim is to have your hand go through the piece of wood and end up with a piece of wood here and your hand the other side of it, not stop here. So identifying opportunities, seizing the opportunities. And then the 4th element is actually it's nurture. And in breaking the board, it's what we call a snap. You break the, you don't break the board actually with the hand that goes forward. You break the board with the hands that comes backwards.
Really?
Which is a real strange concept, because if you leave this hand forward and you do this, okay, it restricts you physically. So your hand will stop at a certain point.
Yeah,
but if you pull this hand back, what happens is your shoulders, there you go, your shoulders turn. This hand has no option other than to go through the piece of wood. The piece of wood doesn't stand a chance anymore. So physically, and the physics of it and the biology of it, it works.
Very similar to a golf swing.
Very similar to the?
Very similar to a golf swing. In that sense, I've been very much I had some lessons I was getting my arms around, but then suddenly it was like a wider circle. It was whole body coming through that brought the power through and make you a little bit more balanced and everything like that. But it's the other elements. So interesting. Yeah.
And people talk about swing at the ball, don't hit the ball, and it will go further. You concentrate on the other things, and the success comes from where you least expect it. That's one of our messages. And when it all works well, when you're going to break a piece of wood, the key is you can't break the piece of wood by kind of going, right, Brad's going to tell me 6 different elements. I'll shut off to 2 of them and I'll focus wholly on 4. You'll never break. Even if you do 4 perfectly, it will not be as successful as doing 6, all of them just a little bit right. You'll get success. So when it comes to running an organization, getting those elements working, just understanding where we are and increase them by 1%. And Dave Brailsford talks about the Parthenon effect, I think, and the marginal differences. You just move each of these elements up a small amount and it has a multiplier effect.